Hi, and welcome to our first Shopware deep dive. Today we look at the new Shopware 6.5 update, which was released, surprise, today. But first things first, let's do a quick introduction round. My name is Jonas, and I'm Head of Development Shopware at basecom. Christian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Christian. I'm from Das ist Web, and I'm also the guy who does Docware and a couple of other different things. And I'm happy to present with those wonderful guys Shopware 6.5 a bit to you. So most of you should also probably know the third person, Soner from Shopware.
Yeah, hello. I'm Soner. I'm working as principal software engineer at Shopware. I'm very active in the community, mostly known as Shyam, and also active as Friends of Shopware and many other places.
Thank you. So let's talk about the stream first. It was an idea born at the Shopware Community Unconference, and we wanted to try it out. So today we will take a look on the new Shopware updates and discuss several topics. If you have any topic ideas, please let us know via the YouTube chat. You find it right below. And if you watch this video afterwards, just write it in the comments. So Christian, I've heard you already released a new Docware image for Shopware 6.5. Is that true?
Yes, available since today, and I think it was actually the fastest one ever. So about an hour later after Shopper, so I was already waiting since a long time. And yeah, it's available, so you can use the Play and the Dev version, and just get going and play around with the new Shopper version.
Cool, thanks. And Sona, what do you think is the biggest improvement in Shopware 6.5 when it comes to development? What is the biggest news for our developers out there?
For me, I guess, I think the new web installer, like we finally ditched the zip installation. So we are like completely free. Like in the past, we had like problems like requiring the Google SDK, which is bigger than 5 megabyte for the store. But with the complete new installer, we have a complete new infrastructure, and we can use Composer how it was intended to be used.
Finally. And what about the just today, Sona, I write something about the FAR file in the updates folder. Maybe you could talk what is up with that topic.
The Shopware installer itself, it's also a Symfony application, but a special one. So what we did is we packed the Symfony application inside a FAR file. And this FAR file also contains Composer. And what we then do is we deliver this one binary, which is like 10 megabyte. You just put it on your web space. And then you can install or update Shopware using Composer using a nice web interface. So you don't have to learn how Composer is working. We do the complete stuff for you. So you can do regularly updates. And if you want to dig more into Composer, also like the Composer packages we have for the store, you can go in and improve it and add it to your CI pipelines and more stuff. So it's basically just a wrapper for the command line Composer commands.
Okay, Christian, you at Docware, I think you are using the zip installer in the past to just install a Shopware in Docware. How do you do that after or with Shopware 6.5?
So the actual reason why we were using the zip files is just me having that kind of a different mindset of trying to work like emergent. So not in particular like every developer's, more like emergent. So that was the idea behind the zip file, and that's the stable one, and no Git wrong branches or anything like that. We recently had to change with the first release candidate of Shopware 6.5 to the official installation. So we do the create composer, we have the new dev branch, and then a couple of commands that I can't tell you by heart now, but they are all obviously open source, so you can just go to the Docware GitHub page and see really like those 10-20 lines probably, and get the final installation of Shopware 6.5, including the new or the previous finally back demo data. So just a bunch of commands, but it works really, really good.
Okay, thanks. Sona, one question for you from the YouTube chat. Are there rectors available to do automatic upgrades?
Yes, I guess half year ago, we was at an hackathon, and we thought like, hey, let's do Rector, because Rector is like getting more attraction in the developer community in PHP. We thought like, let's do it for Shopware, and we have this big update. So we just started as a community at the hackathon with writing Rector. That is also available at GitHub in the Friends of Shopware repository as Shopware Rector. And of course, it doesn't do everything what you have to do, but it does the annoying stuff, because you have like changes of attributes, and that's are like the boring stuff, and the tool does the boring stuff for you, and then you can have the real challenges or more cooler changes you have to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
thanks.
if anyone out there is interested, because I would have prepared a few lessons learned from a migration, or not so much migration, but making a plugin compatible for the new version, and also have it backward compatible. So one single source space for all plugin versions. And besides Rector, there are a couple of things that I could share to probably help you a bit more on your plugins or systems that you're building. So we could talk about it a bit later, probably.
Yeah, so write it in the chat if you're interested in it. I think we could talk about what features we like in the new Shopware update. I think that would be really nice. So I can make a start. What I found out in the changelog or in the release notes so far, it was about the CSRF protection, and that's completely dropped. And I'm really happy about that. And yeah, now it uses the same site cookies, and that's really interesting. Soner, can you tell us more about why you did this change?
Yeah, first of all, like everyone has struggles with CSF tokens. Of course, we had it also. We had like funny situations where we had like 3 form listeners on the same form submit event, and then we have like, okay, they're all doing othering stuff, and CSF and capture, it's like really annoying and also complex. So what we thought like is how we can make the CSF token much easier, and then looked more into the internet and decided more like, we don't need it anymore, because the same site cookie can do like this. It gives us the same protection, and it's from the browser. We can do it better than a standard that exists, and we don't have to implement it. So we use what there is, and we are all happy. And everybody also knows CSF cookies are also like really annoying when you have caching, especially when you have like Varnish or like Fastly. It gets really hard, and so we decided to remove it and make the developer life easier.
Cool. Well, what is your favorite feature, Soner?
Of course, how I said first, like the Shopware installer. What I also really like is that we now finally configure the Elasticsearch in the core also with admin. So all the configs you make also works with Elasticsearch out of the box. So that was also like a cool change we did, and also simplified Elasticsearch a lot with that. And
yeah,
yeah,
cool. And Christian, what is your favorite feature or your favorite features?
So to be honest, I had to prepare myself a bit for the question today, because I was mostly struggling making all the changes work in the plugin. But what I saw, what is now released according to the changelog, is return management, at least in the commercial versions. And that is a pretty cool thing. 'Cause, the only thing that I just saw is a screen sharing of Soner a couple of minutes ago, and the documentation. But I do think that it takes or could take quite a lot of pain, especially from the work of agencies, because as you probably know, Jonas, we sometimes have to take care that our clients have a good return management process, and quite often that is done manually or customized from us as an agency. And It could now be in Shopware, but still, what I saw, I mean, a lot is outside Shopware. But if you like, probably add calls to the API or store it in whatever way, I don't know how it's done yet, but you have your internal data structure that is being built for return stuff. So administrators can see what has been returned. And the cool thing is, if you take a closer look at the source code, you already see some payment refund interface classes, or however they are called. And that means the whole process of returning, including refund, looks like it will be streamlined very soon. And that means every payment plugin outside there, if they add support for that new interface, that could make the life of us agencies and merchants so much better if we could just have whatever plugin. I mean, there's only one that I adore, but whatever payment plugin is out there, the refund is automatically called in whatever automatic process we're building as an agency. And I think that's like a really, really good thing, because at the moment it's like, should I do some manual implementation to call the payment API of whatever payment provider? So that looks like really cool stuff, I have to say. Even though I just saw a class and images.
Yeah, that's super interesting. In the past, we at basecom, we developed our own plugin, our own return plugin for some customers to do this. Maybe we can take a look at a feature. Can Soner, you shared your screen before.
Sure.
Maybe you can share it again to show the feature. That would be really cool.
Yes, I can quickly share my screen. So I am here at the latest Shopware version, of course, and I have also like this return management. So when I go to like an order, you see like the items I have in the order, and with the return management, which is in the commercial edition, you can just click on the items you want to like return management, and then click on return items, and then you can choose the return quantity and write a comment, and you have done your return. I can just create it as example. And then we have like a listing of the positions and history. Then we can toggle the complete return handling within progress and so on.
But
And
the
what-
Jonas, sorry.
Okay, sorry. What is the data structure of that? So will it just create something like a reverse order, or will it is it a complete custom a new entity for the returns?
It's a complete new entity, which is also in the normal Shopware edition in the community. And of course, it brings also like an interface, and the interface is really small. We just have on our payment handlers a new message, refund, and you get from us a refund ID and the use context. And we make this interfaces always very small, like only the ID, because we had in the past problems where you like pass the order entity and people expect the addresses are loaded, the address is country. So therefore we make them now like really small. And what you can then do in your payment handler is, as an example, in the app payment handler, you get the refund ID and you just read it from the refund repository, and then you have your data and you can handle the refund.
Could we, because that's the interesting thing. I wanted to go to the source code too, because at the moment what we saw or could not see in the administration is anything related to payments. So I guess this is only added as a source code, but probably not visible in the administration up until the point where plugins add support for that, because it wouldn't make any sense now. What would be interesting for me is, could we see the refund entity or those related classes? Because I would be interesting, what kind of information do I have in that case? Is it only the line item quantities that are returned, or also some kind of special discounted price or refund pricing structure?
Give me a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me click on it. I don't know why it's not opening.
So I guess it's a totally new structure inside the order aggregate. Okay.
Yes. It's also like living there already like some versions, as you can see. So we have always the sins in our entities, and that is like used for the open API specification. So we can write this entity exists in this version. And yeah, what we then have is like the amount, the reason, external reference, when you have mapped to like an ERP system or something, and also like the positions, which are also like an own entity again. And they have also like a reason and external reference. So
Separate
you can
amount.
external system.
But have we access to the order ID? I don't find
Hopefully.
it here.
Would be as part of the, I guess, as the capture, and that has the order transaction and
Order
from
transaction
there
as
you
the order.
can
Yeah.
just
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I get it.
So a couple of
Yeah,
things to
that's a
learn, but
yeah,
pretty
and
good.
that's a pretty cool feature, I think. Yeah. So I see a question in the chat. Wouldn't it make sense to have that interface for shipments as well? That's really interesting. Can you tell something about that?
Right now, not, but yeah, of course. So let's discuss. So what we also have is like this proposal repository. So that would be like a perfect fit for that repository. So to just start this happening, that we create an interface and gather feedback, because normally we get feedback from multiple payment providers when we build something similar to this, and then decide how the interface has to look. And of course, we can do that similar thing also for shipment and make this return management more accessible.
Yeah, would make sense. Some flow builder, events, triggers probably, but yeah, good one. Whoever asked that question.
Cool. So what's yeah, maybe we can talk about some other great features. So I've heard you dropped jQuery support. Maybe Sona, maybe you can tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty good.
yeah. People it's mostly like there are people which hate jQuery and which loves jQuery, but mostly I'm the backend guy. But like why we like ditched is we needed jQuery just for Bootstrap. So Bootstrap 4 had a requirement to have jQuery, and that was also like in our mind. So all our JS plugins, like from the storefront, was not didn't use any functions of jQuery. And with Bootstrap 5, we was finally able to drop jQuery and make some people happy with that. But if you still need jQuery, there's a dedicated plugin trick. It's also documented in the changelogs, so you can all plugins extensions should add their jQuery include there, and so it's loaded only once. But I hope all people migrate to normal JavaScript.
I think I could share it just for a sec.
Yeah.
That people know it. It should be somewhere down there. This one, right?
Yes. The
Yeah.
space
So still need jQuery. So that's in the upgrade markdown file. But let's be honest, just remove it.
There are also like cool tools in the internet. So you just put your code with jQuery and you get like a polyfill, or just use ChatGPT to remove it. Maybe it works good.
So, but good move on jQuery and Bootstrap upgrade. So with the, I promise you a couple of insights while migrating a plugin to the be compatible to for 6.5. The Bootstrap part, at least for my plugin, was really easy. So all I did was there were obviously new classes being used, especially for the forms. So I just had that. I think I added both classes and it just worked without any side effects because they have totally different names and scopes, I think. So then I have one single twig file or element, and both compatible with 6.4, 6.5. So there was nothing easier, speaking of the whole process, than that Bootstrap upgrade, for me at least.
That sounds very good, because in the core we had like some if conditions always, but to make it also like easier to clean it up, because when the people has to clean it up, he doesn't know anymore what the classes are. But how was your CSRF upgrade when we already had twig templates?
CSRF, yeah, I had a harder time, but not so hard. Let me just share my screen and I can tell you what I did, because I have the problem that because there's one payment plugin we're doing besides traditional shops, and that one has to be downward compatible, backward compatible. And my problem is that the whole complexity of the plugin, I just can't copy paste it into new repositories and maintain both of them, because there's Shopware 5, there's Shopware 6, there's Shopware 6.5, and probably more soon. So that would be too hard. So I had to try to find a good way, a fast way, because that's just one point that I had to go through to support it, CSRF. So what I came up with, and I would totally, at least in my case it works, so I would recommend it, is a very simple thing. So if no, that's 6.5, that's the plugin. So what I did was, I first started by that's the dark mode. I saw somewhere Soner should switch to dark mode in the chat. So high contrast for every one of you. So I did add a CSRF subscriber for me that just basically figures out the Shopware version. Are we prior to 6.5 or already 6.5? And then what I do is just a Boolean value. I just add it, and I know, okay, we are CSRF mode available or not available. And then in my twig, I had a problem. Okay. I did have the problem that my functions that are being called, so Shopware CSRF, they obviously led to an exception. Because that one, even though I had it in an if condition, but it's still not found. So there was just no way to make that stuff work. And I really tried so hard to have that minimum part of different or in other words, the same twig file for all plugin versions or Shopware versions, and only the minimum part somewhere outsourced. So what worked for me is I did add a simple if condition, and then did not use the Shopware CSRF function, but included the external file. Because if we are now not going into the if condition, that part or that external file is not evaluated, so it doesn't throw an exception. So that means I have the specific, so that's really like form specific separate twig files in a separate CSRF folder, and all I do is just conditionally include it, and it works so good. I was really happy. Took me a while, but yeah, it works. I would say.
Wouldn't it possible to just create a custom twig function named Shopware CSRF, and then you can just return nothing if it's not needed anymore? So if it's running in Shopware 6.5, then you just return nothing, and after a while you can completely remove this function.
Yeah,
Exactly. I had that in somewhere else also, that approach in the end then. So that was the fastest one for me, because let's be honest, the pressure's quite high because first release candidate up until yeah, today, there wasn't so much time if you have like other things also to do as as an agency. So that was the first approach I came up with after a while. So that works. But yours would work too. But does it work really good to add in Shopware your custom functions too for Twig? and override them? I have never done it in Shopware.
Yeah, you can do that. We did that in the last security update, so it works. Also very good.
Perfect. So you guys and girls, you have 2 solutions out there that you
Just
you
try it
can
out.
go for.
I can also do like in the third one, you can write a node traverser and then just remove this node from the AST. There are many possible ways to do it.
Could be that people have other things to do. They're going with the third approach. But yeah, sounds good.
So, what do you think? Should we just go through the changelog and see if we find something interesting? Or do you have any other features you want to mention?
I have a question for Soner. Because some of you out there already know the answer, probably some do not, and I think it would be it's a cool platform that we have today to go through that question. Speaking of interfaces, so I saw some parts, especially that payment refund thingy, has an interface. Some things had an interface and moved to the entity repository. And then we have, I just discovered today, a separate sales channel repository, which does not seem to be an entity repository. So I think, so speaking of a developer software architecture approach, might not be the best move, but I guess Shopware has some good things that are widely needed, and I think it would be a perfect timing that you share what Shopware will come up with or the reasons for this.
Yeah, so at the beginning we had like many interfaces, and then of course after some time you have to break your own interfaces, and we had so much problems with that. So you come to a time where you make like a v2 interface, or like then you have like if conditions in your code when the new interface is used, and call this method when the old interface, and we had like a lot of such problems. And what we are like then think about is, let's make it more like an abstract class, and the intention of that is we can like deliver the new method directly with you. So you have like a load function, and we add after some time like a load v2, and we would add this as non-abstract in the normal abstract class. So this function would be always available, and then we call from our side the getDecorate function, getDecorated, which all these abstract classes have, and then call your original code with the load with the old implementation, and then just wrap it up so it's making it compatible for the v2 edition. So we like making it like directly forward compatible for the upcoming breaking changes. Like when your interface doesn't implement the new stuff, we just call the old method and wrap it up without you have to care about it. And at a major or so, we will like drop the old method and make the newer one abstract, so you are forced to implement it.
So we basically trade in some things that would be a benefit for interfaces, speaking of generic approaches of development, trade in for a better and more secure and accurate compatibility done by Shopware for us.
Yeah. So like we use like interface and trades combined, let's say it so in that way, to make it like easier for us to break, to add new functionality, and so people have it also easier. And I guess the get decorated is also like a nice feature when you are like decorating multiple times and want to have the real source.
I just saw a matching question from Joshua. Schöne Grüße. Do you already have an example where that helped out?
Right now in my head, not really. Maybe, I guess, I'm not sure, maybe the Zero stuff, but I'm right now not sure about an example. So, but for now, it's like really working really great for us, and we didn't had any problems until now, except people are asking like, hey, why are you not using normal interfaces? And like for payment, we have to use interfaces because like a payment handler can have like multiple interfaces at one time that doesn't work with like with abstract classes. You can only implement one. So that's why we have still payment handler interfaces and not abstract classes.
Makes sense. Yeah. So that's where you differentiate in if you really have your unique one, still go with interface approach. The other way, make it more secure for updates.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will just share the changelog, and then we can take a look at it, and maybe we find something interesting. So here's the changelog, and I think we could just go through from line to line, and if somebody is finding something interesting, then just let me know.
Maybe like refactor C method, like it's a really small change, but also like really cool.
Oh.
I guess the links are broken. No. I will fix it after this.
Okay.
After this live stream. Yeah. You can go to GitHub and then click on the GitHub release. So the GitHub releases page on the 6.5 release. C method, I'm not sure if that the ticket is, but I hope. We change that also in 6.5. What we now make is we create, when you just run theme compile, we create a complete new folder structure with like a version hash. And there will be this theme compiled and just swap it out. That's like also like really cool to clean it up and not copy in the same folder always. Okay, that was something different which I implemented. No, I know again what it is. We had copied the assets always twice, so the asset copying is faster with that.
That looks interesting. Optional salutation.
Yes, with this change, like we started with this change already with 6.4, but it's escalated with the backward compatibility. So what we did was we wanted to make salutation nullable, so it can be optional, but like we are not in like a major release. So what we did was like we created this not specified salutation, and we used always this not specified salutation when it was null. And for this, we just added a little hack. So when it's null, it just turns into this unspecified salutation. And with this change, we remove this undefined salutation with a real null. So you could now get a real null when you use salutation. That's like for internalization, because outside of Germany, it's, I guess, not so common to have salutations.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What about what about the first and last name? Currently, it's mandatory, but sometimes, for example, when it comes to B2B shops, they only want to have the company name. So, is it a possibility for future releases to drop the requirement for the first and last name? I think that's a big change and maybe also breaking, but yeah, it would be interesting to discuss this topic.
Maybe it's already working because I saw the address format can now be manipulated and changed.
Yeah,
so
you can remove this displaying, but you still need this. You can just write something stupid in this first name, last name,
okay.
and not display it.
So no breaking changes in the abstract data abstraction layer, more in the storefront. Okay.
Nope. But for this first name, last name, it's always hard for us to do this. We had this always with salutation already because they're like shipping providers which wants to have like a salutation from us, and we like what we do now. And yeah, I guess that's we have to look with like first name, last name. I guess also like from Molly that you need some stuff to do sometimes payments.
Mandatory. I think it's mandatory.
Yeah. and something hurt.
But fun thing, because you were mentioning the not specified salutation. I think that one made broke something in one of our shops. I don't know what the reason was. Was it nullable? Was it not yet nullable? But I can remember something like that. So then at least I knew it existed.
Okay, cool.
Short answer for
Yeah.
juicy in the chat, because I try to find a sec to answer your question. What does really change for the or did really change for the entity repository? I don't think anything. The change from interface to entity repository was just a move for future updates, right? So
yeah, so we had this problem that for us it's like a bad pattern to decorate this entity repository, because people did a lot of stuff. Also, so we had decorated the media repository so when you delete the media repository, delete an item, we delete the file from the file system, and it's like for us like a bad pattern, because what do we call this delete method also when it's an association or when not? And it's making the system more problematic. And so we decided, hey, let's make it more event driven. So we added for all the cases, mostly you need their events. So you can do the same with events without decorating the entity repository. And also what we did with that is we make this role DAL like internal or final, like it's like not more allowed to like decorate the entity search or like really low level classes. So like we are free there and can break things and add more functionality faster without having a major. And because the most people are just interacting with the entity repository, so we are more free to break stuff in the DAL.
What I also kind of like about that approach is, I mean, I'm still a fan of plugins and on-premise, because as a developer, you have the freedom to do almost anything. But I think it already kind of prepares us for the app development in some way that we just can't touch anything like we used to be able before, and really see Shopware as the kind of ecosystem that handles stuff for us while we work around Shopware. So that might already be some kind of good transition move to that that cool system, maybe.
Yeah. And to Juicy, yes, the repository methods, of course, will stay. The class is just final, so it's not allowed to extend it.
I just found another really cool thing here. We factor cheapest price indexing. That was a pain in the ass before Shopware 6.5, and we in most projects where we didn't use the variants, we had to disable this this indexer because it was really slow. Can you tell us something more about that?
Yeah, with refactoring, we mean we moved the cheapest price.
Oh.
So the problem was that we have had this cheapest price on the product entity level. And when you have a product entity, you don't know the sales channel context. So for which sales channel you want to have the price. So it was like building. So this change brings a lot of performance, like with zero OL generation, because whenever the zero OL generation happened, it also calculated the prices for like the default context. And with this change, this cheapest price moved from the product entity to the sales channel product entity. So also like API calls with products are like faster because it doesn't have to calculate this stuff anymore.
Okay, that's really cool.
Speaking about the faster thing, the administration is amazing. So it's like you don't really see it loading sometimes. I think that might be one of the most important things that nobody in the end really cares about, because it's that stuff that just annoys you once you feel the pain of having it loading slow, and then it's gone and you just forget about the pain. But if you Jonas, you're clicking, right?
Yeah.
That's so
really
fast.
fast. Yeah.
Could you tell us more about the probably in short words, because I think it was a huge development step. What happened in a good way?
So first, what we did was like move the JS into smaller chunks. So like each view component is now our own JS file. This happens also with like UP extensions. So when you have an admin change something and build your extension again with 6.5, it's also like chunked by the component.
Automatically?
And yes, without configuration. And when you just go click on product and it loads the missing components for this module, and so the overall JS consumed at the beginning is like much smaller. We did also some backend changes. So we looked like which request happens when you load the admin and try to optimize them. And I guess the end result is very good.
It is.
It's super fast.
Is that also a combination with the fields approach in the API that you have? Maybe you can tell us what I saw from it was a basecom meetup with that video, right? You were mentioning that it's now possible to only extract through the API specific fields, just a handful of fields that you want. Is that also part of the performance improvements in the administration?
Right now, we are not using it there because the problem was we wanted to edit like really late, and we didn't communicate it something because such change would break all listings because every extension has to say, I want this field and I want this field. And that's something we have to communicate in a longer way. And right now we also like have some problems like media, because media are like special in Shopware. And after we have like fixed such problems, we will move there.
You're already getting amazing shout outs for the performance from Black Eye. So that's like really good. Are there also performance changes in the storefront, or just the administration, that tremendous stuff?
In the storefront, like a lot of general changes happened.
Mhm.
First of all, we had like this performance streaks and a lot of feature flags in 6.4. And in 6.5, we have like removed all feature flags we have and all like enabled by default, as we have deleted them. And this bring a lot of performance. Like with this cheapest price, it did make the ZOL generation much faster. Also like product export. And we did a lot of stuff also behind those hidden feature flags. And I guess also Bootstrap is smaller, less JS without jQuery.
So overall faster stuff.
Yeah.
Jonas, could that be Docker? What you're showing? Maybe
That's Dockware. Yeah,
that's
right.
Docker.
And I think with the enabled Dockware sample plugin. Yeah.
Because I started also just today. Obviously just today. It was so fast, and it's Docker on a Mac, so that's like ridiculous. So one could feel, especially on operating systems where things are probably a bit slower, the more or on these operating systems, you really feel what Shopware did. Speaking of the performance, because it's super blazing fast and totally fun to develop with. I guess tomorrow probably my first day.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we did at Basecom, we have some developers using an old Intel Mac, and some developers using the new M1 or M2 MacBooks. And what you find out is that every Mac was different when it comes to performance or speed. So we had some people using Intel MacBooks, and it was super slow. They weren't able to develop plugins or something like that. And then we tried out Colima and OrbStack instead of Docker Desktop for Mac, and that's super fast. So if you guys out there, if you are using Dockware with Docker for Mac, Docker Desktop for Mac, just throw it away and try Colima or Obstack. It's super fast.
Link in the description. I always wanted to say something like that.
Yeah. And something it's not about Shopware 6.5. Sorry for that, but I make it short. What's also interesting, it would be possible, for example, to put PHP Storm in a separate Docker container, and with Dockware, and then you can just use the IntelliJ gateway to access the PHP Storm, and that's much more faster.
Sounds like a webinar.
I think,
right?
Yeah, maybe we should do something about Docker
I'd be
performance.
interested in seeing it. That sounds good. That sounds good.
It's something about 20 milliseconds for loading the admin page.
Yeah.
So that's
someone from OneDrop now says DevEnv is also really fast. So that's, I think, a good thing from the audience. There are so many ways nowadays that you can work with, or how you can work. I do really think the best decision is to decide it as a company, as a group, as a team, what works best for you. May it be DevEnv, may it be what else do we have, or just stick with Docker. Every technology has benefits, trade-offs. And the only thing that you always need to take care of, what I sometimes see is for some people out there, not speaking about the Shopware community, but in general, is the goal is more the change and not the solution for a problem. So sometimes you change to a new technology just because it's super new and fancy, and then you have problems what you had before you switched to the old technology. So that's like so awkward and weird sometimes to see. So I would really say, whatever you have, go for it. Maybe stick with it, because in the end you're building products and you're not always building your development environment. So that's just something I would love to share. But yeah, there's so many cool things out there. And
Dennis just asked if there's any performance, any test of the performance optimization with a lot of products. So Soner, do you have any tests with a lot of products?
The problem is we have made most of the tests with like 6.4, but with all feature flags enabled. So we had always this good state. And from that point, when you have already 6.4 with the performance tweaks and the cheapest price flags and many feature flags enabled, you can have like the same performance, except in the admin because it's a complete break. Also with 6.4, so more or less we don't have really good compare. What we did was like last week where we deployed 6.5 to the cloud. We make like a profiler trace before and after. What we also then have like the page speed was sometimes the double speed. So it's increased a lot for our case, but we did also like many changes like async AWS usage into the normal SDK. And that brings like for the cloud case more. But in general, when you had the flags on, it's not so much a difference.
Yeah, I can test it. We have some a customer which has about, I think, 2 million products in the shop, and maybe I just test it out and see if it's working, and if it's more performant than before. So okay, what do we next? I think there's a question about something which changed in Shopware 6.5, optimized storefront script loading. Is it possible to remove some scripts or even make just visible parts loading?
I guess the question is like in the admin with the splitting. Right now, it's not possible to split the JS like for pages. but the next time we will work on that. Like first, what we want to really change in the storefront is to make the JS files independent of each other, like in the admin. I guess many people outside had already this problem that when you have when you built the JS and then deployed it, and it was somehow broken because with these two other extensions, the JS Webpack stuff builds something different, and import is broken, and that's what we want to change first in the storefront to make this building much more stable, and then look more into import maps. What we more like to do in the storefront is to use import maps maybe in the future. There is like a good start from Symfony with the new asset mapper, which will come in the next Symfony version. And we are really looking into that and hoping to adopt that into Shopware. So we will then have import maps.
Okay, thank you. I think there's another good question, and I'd like to discuss this. Would you guys recommend to create separate plugin versions for 6.5 and 6.4 for the Shopware store? And I think that's really interesting because you can easily do that, but you can also create one version fitting both Shopware versions. Christian, you already talked about that. What do you guys think?
I could take over at first with the help of Soner in the way how it can even be done. So as already mentioned in the beginning, is I'm having that huge plugin for payment, and the first thing when I heard, okay, they are not compatible, you have to do two plugins, was like, beep beep beep. I was really like yelling. So that's just not doable for me, at least, because I have the problem that I'm working with money from merchants and customers, and I just can't maintain hundreds of different plugin versions. That's just not doable. So for me, at moment zero, it was always like, I will have that single code base, no matter if I'm having two zip versions. So that's a completely different story. Come about that in a couple of minutes. So for me, it's one code base. Otherwise, I just couldn't handle it. So what I had, because we also had the rector and how did the migration work, I think that might be a good match. I had so many things that I had to change and make compatible to have that single code base. So I worked a lot with factories where I had all kinds of different implementations of code for 6.5, 6.4. Then I had those even, I could show you a bit.
Yeah.
And I promise to keep it short. But I guess that's probably very interesting for a lot of people trying to get going with 6.5, especially with plugins where you have that backward compatibility. So, and don't judge me, I already screwed up with the twig function. Sorry, didn't know, but sometimes you have to make it work and then make it fast. So I had some problems with the new routing annotation stuff. So that just changed with the route scope. So you have I think an array exception in older versions because the route scope switched to that one. I just did add an account controller base. That's the storefront controller that has the full logic and independent route scopings in here, and then just did two empty implementations with different here the deprecated route scope and the new one, and then I did add a separate XML. So that's like the bad part. On the other hand, I can or have to use in the 6.5 version the set twig functions in here, while that wasn't existing in prior versions. So like here, but it helped. So that means I work quite a lot with factory approaches, and also that kind of different loading of XML files with some kind of compatibility check. And when it comes to the, what else do we have? Storefront, already mentioned, just different bootstrap file stuff. And in the administration, that was bad. I mean, not bad, but hard to achieve, because quite a lot of stuff changed when it comes to the Twig blocks. So a colleague of mine, Vitali, Nick, hi, schöne Grüße, did add the let me see if I can find it, Shopware version. Yeah, so we basically added a property in Vue.js for the Shopware version, and then we had those two implementations in those different blocks of the same component. And once we said, okay, that's the 6.4 component, then the 6.5 component, and we have both of them inside the Vue.js if it would be loaded, but still only one is working. So also that kind of conditional approach to either load one or two. The last thing that I would like to share, so we have the factory approaches, all that conditional stuff is one very interesting thing, but I like it. We're coming back to performance. Is this one? So I don't know if you knew it out there. Shopware 6.5 automatically removes all custom fields in the line items. So if you depend on that it could mean that things don't work anymore. So that's a cool thing for performance, and really shout out to, I think it was Uwe and Timo from Kellerkinder. Huge feature. Probably one of the things why the storefront is so fast now. But the problem is sometimes you need it, and there is a whitelist. There's an event, Soner. Do you know it by heart?
I don't know right now, but I can quickly look into the code. But it's card cleaner service, card civilization cleaner, card before civilization event.
Card before, it has to be somewhere in here. Card before serialization event. Here we have it. So that's an event, Sonar, that you subscribe to, right? And then you have some kind of allow list. So that's just a string list where you basically tell Shopware what to keep, right?
Yep. But by the way, we made this event easier, so you can now call add field or something, add custom field. So you don't have to use always set, because it's annoying to use
when you create a custom field set or custom field already.
Oh yeah, no, in this event. So instead set, you can also like add that set custom field.
Okay.
So add, and it's much easier because you don't have to get it again.
But I think it's a cool feature because, for example, in one project we are using custom fields on products for storing information about non-delivery days. And it's a huge list because it will be updated from the PIM, and I think it contains the next 12 or 15 months, something like that. And we had a lot of really a lot or a long list of information in that custom field. And every time a customer buys the product, this complete useless information is going to the cart and to the order, and that's bloating our order line items table. So I think it's a really cool feature to drop all custom fields and just whitelist the custom fields you really need in the checkout.
Yeah. Like rule conditions are like automatically included. When you make a rule on a custom field, it's included directly in the serialized event. And it's add custom field. I guess you are still in the AST or not in the final release. So that's why the method is missing. We added it afterwards to the final release.
Okay.
I don't know. Hopefully, hopefully it's DRC. I think OneDrop just wrote what. So I guess that it's good that we were mentioning this because I really was a bit scared that because I couldn't really see it like in a prominent way in the chain upgrade markdown file. But now to the final master question to Soner, probably speaking about the whole preparation process of having one zip file. There is still that thingy where you have to build your artifacts for 6.5 or 6.4 because of Shopware or the internal thing. I think you told me at the unconference you have a wonderful package where you could get kind of rid of Shopware and have that one zip file.
Yeah. So what we did with 6.5 was we updated Webpack. So the role bundling process is now different. So like from Webpack 4 to Webpack 5. And what you can do is to use something different, something like a different bundler, like ES build, and not depend on the Shopware sources. So what I built a long time ago is like an SDK at npm. Quickly show it when I also screen share. That's right now Shopware Stop on SDK. And what this package contains, it contains the really bare bone what you need to do something in the storefront, like the plugin manager, the basic plugin class, and some other little classes. And what you then can do is like to use like ES build and bundle your JS by your own. So instead using like our Webpack, which changes from 6.4 to 6.5, you can just use ES build, turbo packs. There are many tools outside, and use like this SDK and build based on this SDK your storefront extension. And with that, you're like independent of any Shopware version, because the Shopware classes are in this package, and you don't have to reference the original files using this Webpack chunk hashing stuff.
If that works, you're my lifesaver, honestly. I can tell you probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just in that phase.
Of course, like not every function of the storefront is inside. Really the bare bone. So like the DOM access helper, so it's not there, but you can just use DOM query get query selector or DOM get element by ID. So I guess it's also better to not use so much helpers.
So that's the thing that I hear. So if you are already kind of building independent from Shopware, then you're good to go. You just exchange and build and you're done, right?
Yep, exactly.
Perfect. So one thing to not use DOM access. Just plain stuff.
Cool. So guys, our time is up. When I take a look at the clock, it was a lot of fun, and I think it's a great update. And I think we need some more days to go through all features. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Sona. Thank you, all viewers out there. I think we will discuss if we do some kind of live streaming again. But for me, it was really cool. And yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It was just amazing. I had a very good time.
Yeah, of course, from the outside. It's great to go to a conference and then build something cool stuff.
Okay, thank you guys, and bye.